Hello, lovelies. I am starting a new project that it's because my heart feels happy about it. Really, that's the only reason why. It's not like I have time on my hands. But anyway, it is called the Heart to Mind Project. Now, the Heart to Mind Project is a pioneering exploration into the subtle, often invisible channels of communication that exist between parents and their autistic children and between people in general. It challenges the limits of what we've been taught to believe is possible, reclaiming telepathy, deep intuition, and energetic attunement, not just as fantasies, but as forgotten human capabilities. Now, rooted in some experience and guided by both science and spirit, as well as my research into ancient wisdom, this project will offer tools, practices, and insights that might be the most important thing of all to help us move beyond words and into direct knowing. It's not about fixing communication, it's about revealing communication that's already there beneath the noise, before the language, because some things can only be said heart to mind. Now, this is inspired by the telepathy tapes, and you already know I'm not an expert in autism. I'm not a child psychiatrist. I'm not a pediatric neurologist or a developmental pediatrician. I'm not a doctor at all in any sense of the word. And I don't have children, nor am I personally acquainted really with any autistic children. I do have several friends that are parents, and I've been listening to their insights and struggles for a long time now. Also, I can't claim to be especially telepathic. I have had my moments, though. So why on earth do I have the audacity to even talk about telepathy and the autist children highlighted in the telepathy tapes? Well, the very reason you might doubt my qualifications are precisely why I should be talking about it. My path has been anything but conventional, and maybe that's what makes me qualified. I spent years running a space with over 3,000 psychics, astrologers, and tarot readers, testing them, evaluating them, figuring out what was real and what was not. In fact, my strange little claim to fame in this life is that I might be the most psychically read woman in the world. That experience taught me a great deal about how consciousness stretches far beyond what most people consider possible. Now, after spending the last decade researching how the ancient Egyptians achieved what can only be called miracles, I've learned something that I can no longer ignore, and that is that cities, superpowers, are real, not as fantasy, but as natural human abilities, ones that most of us have only brushed up against in fleeting, unspoken moments. Now, the ancients didn't see these capacities as strange. They saw them as sacred. From the oracles in Greece to dream seers in Egypt, shaman in indigenous cultures, to prophets and visionaries across traditions, intuitive perception was trained, honored, and woven into the very fabric of their societies. What our modern science is just beginning to glimpse, they integrated into daily life. They weren't powers, they were skills, disciplines, responsibilities. Now, as far as the telepathy itself is concerned, we've all had those moments. You know who's calling before the phone rings. You feel the sting behind a forced smile. You sense someone's anger before a single word is spoken. These are not coincidences. They're whispers from a deeper layer of your being. They reflect nonverbal, energetic communication, the kind of subtle, often unconscious reception of information that doesn't come through the five senses. But we've been taught to ignore them, to second guess them, to think we're crazy. But they aren't coincidences. They're whispers from a deeper layer of our being. Now, despite the ridicule these topics often attract and the uneasy laughter they still provoke in polite conversation, there is a growing body of serious peer reviewed research suggesting that these so called superpowers are not fantasy but fact. Quietly and often under the radar, institutions and researchers have been documenting evidence that challenges the boundaries of what we think the human mind can do. One of the researchers I admire the most, Ingo Swann, spent his life exploring these quote unquote superpowers: telepathy, clairvoyance, remote viewing, and other intuitive abilities. Swan wasn't just involved in classified government projects that he's most famous for, like the Stargate program. He wrote books breaking down how these abilities work and, more importantly, why we've been conditioned to ignore them. And that brings us to the biggest problem we face. It's not a lack of evidence or intelligence. It is, in my opinion, our paradigm. We have inherited a worldview that doesn't permit these things to be possible. Our institutions, scientific, educational, even spiritual, are built on assumptions that limit what reality is allowed to include. Telepathy, presentiment, intuitive knowledge, these are all rejected because they don't fit the model, okay? We build our understanding of reality on a framework that excludes the very capacities that make us most human. Until we question that framework itself, we'll go on dismissing the extraordinary as impossible, when in truth, it's only inconvenient to the worldview we've been taught to trust. And yet, the impossible persists. We can reclaim these forgotten capacities. The autist children are showing us how. They're not limited by language the way we are. They're leading the way, proving that communication beyond words isn't just possible, it's real. We are all telepathic, not just our autist children. And that's why I'm starting the Heart to Mind project. The Heart to Mind project is designed to help share powerful truths with all those who feel the call to explore. That deep connection doesn't require spoken words. The Heart to Mind project is about reclaiming forgotten skills, not imagining new ones. It's acknowledging that just knowing is not nothing. It's the beginning of something far more real than we've been led to believe. This is a space where those capacities, telepathy, deep sensing, energetic communication are not dismissed, but developed, honored, reawakened. Because this isn't about learning something new. It's about remembering what you already know and trusting it enough to use it. With warmth and wonder, my lovelies,